Midday news on Rajya Sabha television, where we get you the biggest developing news stories at the top of this hour. I'm Ashwarya, and these are the headlines. Centre's Aadhaar scheme constitutionally valid, says Supreme Court. Apex Court strikes down some provisions, including linking it with bank accounts, mobile numbers and school admissions. Unique identity number mandatory for filing IT returns and getting PAN number. Supreme Court refuses to refer to larger bench its 2006 decision on quota benefits for SC/ST employees in promotions. Also says states need not collect quantifiable data on the backwardness of community to give quota in promotions. Unaffordable healthcare, a serious social handicap, says Vice President Venkaiah Naidu at convocation ceremony of Homeopathy University in Jaipur. Says this branch of medicine can provide alternative for affordable healthcare. India's economy continues on a robust growth path, says the Asian Development Bank. Maintains growth forecast for current fiscal at 7.3%. Cites consolidation of India's growth rebound among reasons for stable growth across most of developing Asia. And the UNGA president makes a call to world leaders to achieve progress on agreements aimed at slowing climate change. Cites recent devastating floods in Kerala, among other natural disasters, to draw greater attention to the issue. The biggest story this afternoon, the Supreme Court has declared the Aadhaar scheme as constitutionally valid. However, it struck down some of its provisions, including its linking with the bank accounts, mobile phones and school admissions. A 5-judge constitution bench headed by Chief Justice Deepak Mishra held that Aadhaar would remain mandatory for the filing of IT returns and allotment of permanent account number or PAN. It would also not be mandatory for school admissions, as also for examinations conducted by the CBSE, NEET and UGC. The bench also struck down the national security exception under the Aadhaar Act. It said that Aadhaar is meant to help the benefits reach the marginalized section of society. Now, there are 3 sets of judgments pronounced. The first of these 3 verdicts was pronounced by Justice A.K. Sikri, who wrote the judgment for himself, CJI, and Justice A.M. Khanwilkar. Justice Sikri struck down Section 57 of the Aadhaar Act, permitting private entities to avail Aadhaar data, and ruled that Aadhaar authentication data cannot be stored for more than 6 months. The Apex Court also upheld passing of Aadhaar bill as a money bill by the Lok Sabha. It said that there is nothing in the Aadhaar Act that violates rights to privacy of an individual. It also said that there is no possibility of obtaining a duplicate Aadhaar card.
पहली बात तो कोई निजी कंपनी आधार कार्ड किसी भी चीज़ के लिए नहीं मांग सकती, कोई बैंक नहीं मांग सकता, कोई मोबाइल कंपनी नहीं मांग सकती, कोई एयरलाइन नहीं मांग सकती, कोई स्कूल नहीं मांग सकता। आधार कार्ड सिर्फ सरकारी स्कीम्स जिसमें कि कोई सब्सिडी दी जाती है उसी में मांगा जा सकता है, और उसमें भी किसी भी व्यक्ति का अगर बायोमेट्रिक आइडेंटिफिकेशन फेल करता है तो सिर्फ उस आधार पर उसको उसका जो एंटाइटलमेंट है उस स्कीम में वो डिनाई नहीं किया जा सकता।
And let's get more details on this story. We have with us Ravindra Singh Shuran joining us on the phone line. Ravindra, very important verdict we saw by the Supreme Court today, saying that the Aadhaar Act 2016 is constitutionally valid. But the Supreme Court also struck down some of its provisions today. Tell us, what were the main observations that the court made today?
Yeah, Shourie, today is a historic day in the Supreme Court's time today, when Supreme Court in the morning assembled to give its important judgment on the Aadhaar. It was completely a jam-packed courtroom, and one Justice Sikri on behalf of Chief Justice CJI and Justice Khanwilkar, he cited his judgment. The important thing that was a majority judgment, and only it is a 4:1 majority judgment. Only Justice Chandrachud, he has a dissent note. He has dissent judgment on the Aadhaar validity. The main important points which has been raised during the citation of the judgment, the operative part of the judgment, are that section 57 of the Aadhaar Act, which enables body corporates to seek authentication, has completely been upheld unconstitutional.
Right. So
the section 139AA of the Aadhaar Act, which held the mandate linking of Aadhaar with PAN, will remain. It is the IT Act of 139AA. Aadhaar cannot be, as you told, mandatory for mobile connections, and DOT notification to that effect remains unconstitutional.
Right.
Also, the school admissions cannot be based on the the school can't demand Aadhaar card at the time of giving admission to the wards in the school, as the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned that this is not a favor which is being done by the schools to the students, and this is the right of every student to take admission in the school.
Right. That's a very important ruling by the Supreme Court today. Apex Court saying that a person's rights cannot be denied on the ground of lack of a unique ID. And the BJP has reacted to the Aadhaar verdict, saying that we see it as a big victory of the Modi government.
क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने और न्याय प्रणाली ने
valid, but it has added certain conditions to it. How do you look at this verdict?
I would say this verdict was awaited for a very long time. Since 1973, after Keshananda Bharti judgment, which was a 13-judge judgment, this hearing took place for around 38 days. And the main issues were revolving around right to privacy and data protection. And the judgment became more important after the Supreme Court recognized last year, qua the 9-court judge bench, that right to privacy will form the part of fundamental rights. Now, when Supreme Court now with this verdict saying that the Aadhaar card or the Aadhaar Act is absolutely constitutionally valid, I would say it would be definitely a new turn to the aspect of right to privacy, because Supreme Court is nowhere saying that privacy is not an important right. But Supreme Court in the judgment goes on to say that Aadhaar Act will per se will not be violating the right to privacy of the individuals. So Supreme Court, of course, as we all have been discussing, with respect to the PAN card, Supreme Court have categorically stated that PAN card linking the Aadhaar number to PAN card will be allowed and which can be made mandatory with PAN card and for filing the ITR. With the other aspects, such as with respect to the school details of children giving it to the schools, or with respect to telephone companies, private telephone companies requiring it, or any other private companies requiring it, it is not mandatory. One important observation came from Justice Chandrachud regarding the introduction of this Aadhaar Act as a money bill.
Yes.
So I would say that is a very interesting observation, because Justice Chandrachud says that there was no requirement of introducing this Aadhaar Act as a money bill, because the government introduced it in the Lok Sabha as a money bill, which was a deviation as per Justice Chandrachud, who had given a judgment, and which should not have been allowed as per. And somebody said that this Supreme Court has said that Aadhaar Act and the data in the Aadhaar Act is absolutely safe. I don't think so. That is an observation. Supreme Court has said that for the protection of marginalized section of the society, it is required that the Aadhaar Act, since it will provide benefit to the people, even though there are certain chances that data can be misused, but that those demerits or the merits outweighs the demerits in such case for the marginalized section of the people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Advocate Singh, for joining us this afternoon and sharing your perspective on that big story. And the Supreme Court has also refused to refer to a 7-judge larger bench its 2006 verdict on the quota benefits for SC/ST employees in promotions. In a unanimous decision, the 5-judge Constitution bench also clarified that states need not collect quantifiable data on backwardness of SC/ST for giving quota in job promotion to the SC/ST employees. The court's verdict came on petitions seeking that a 7-judge bench reconsider the court's 2006 judgment, which had put conditions for granting quota benefits in job promotions for the SC/ST employees. The court, however, did not comment on 2 other conditions in the 2006 verdict dealing with the adequacy of representation of SC/ST in promotion and not to disturb administrative efficiency. And the Supreme Court has also agreed to live streaming and video recording of court proceedings. The apex court said that necessary rules for balancing rights of public and protecting the dignity of litigants will be placed soon. While allowing the live streaming of court proceedings, the court said that sunlight is the best disinfectant. It further said that live streaming of court proceedings will effectuate the public rights to know and bring in more transparency in judicial proceedings. On to some other news now. Finance Minister Arun Shourie chaired the annual review meeting on public sector banks' performance and reforms in New Delhi on Tuesday. And he said that non-performing assets are on the decline as recoveries have picked up. Arun Shourie also asked the public sector banks to take effective action in cases of fraud and willful loan defaults. He also exuded confidence that India's economy will sustain an annual growth rate of around 8%.
Finance Minister Arun Shourie reviewed the performance of public sector banks with their chief executives and other whole-time directors in New Delhi on Tuesday. The Finance Minister asserted that the impact of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Court was clearly visible as non-performing assets were on the decline. He also exhorted banks to implement all steps needed to ensure clean lending and effective action in cases of fraud and willful default.
Recoveries have picked up not only because of the resolutions which have taken place in the NCLT, but they've also picked up because those debtors who fear that they are likely to cross the red line are paying up in anticipation of an IBC process being compelled on them.
Shourie also said that formalization of the economy has enabled better assessment of financial capacity and risks. This, coupled with massive financial inclusion, has unlocked purchasing power that will drive India's economic growth.
We want this cycle of high consumption, high growth, NPA recoveries, credit offtake, really to be utilized to the fullest in order to help as far as the economy is concerned.
Banks have stepped up efforts as far as recovery of bad loans is concerned. Lenders have made recovery of 36,551,000 crore rupees in the first quarter of the current fiscal. This is 49% higher than the same quarter of the last fiscal. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to the other big story this afternoon. The Asian Development Bank has said that India's economy continues on a robust growth path while maintaining the growth forecast for the current fiscal at 7.3%. It also expects India to grow at 7.6% during the next fiscal, that is 2019-20. In an update of its flagship annual economic publication, the Asian Development Outlook 2018, the multilateral lending agency, however, added that depreciation of the rupee and volatile external financial markets pose challenges. The report further said that the impact of the rising oil prices is offset by robust domestic demand and rising exports, particularly of manufacturers. In midday news, we'll take a very short break here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter-high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Welcome back after the break. Now, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has said that unaffordable healthcare is a serious social handicap. The Vice President said this at the convocation ceremony of Homeopathy University in Jaipur. He further said that this branch of medicine can provide alternative for affordable healthcare.
This is my first interaction with young healthcare professionals after the launch of the ambitious Ayushman Bharat scheme on the birth anniversary of Pandit Dindayal Upadhyaya ji. It is truly a befitting tribute to Upadhyaya ji, who had propounded the sublime philosophy of integral humanism. Out of total expenditure on health in India, only 30% is contributed by the public sector. Remaining 70% of the expenditure is borne through private expenditure. Of the household expenditure on health, it is estimated that 95% is out-of-pocket expenditure borne directly by the individuals at the point of health services, while the remaining 5% goes towards insurance. This situation has to be changed. As regards out-of-pocket expenditure, 52% expenditure is towards medicines, 52% for medicines, 22% towards hospitalization at a private hospital, and 10% goes for diagnostic labs. It is a matter of concern that in many instances, families were pushed into debt trap by high cost of medical treatment. Unaffordable health care is a serious social handicap, and an Ayushman Bharat scheme would be a real boom for the poor and needy sections of the society. People are looking for affordable health care, and homeopathy definitely fits the bill on this count as an alternative system of medicine. There is immense scope for preventive and curative homeopathy treatment in interior remote locations where no modern diagnostic medical facilities are available.
And let's get you all the updates on rain and flood situation in the country. Well, the death toll in Himachal Pradesh, battered by heavy rains and snowfall in Lahaul and Spiti, has now risen to 10, with 4 more deaths being reported on Tuesday. Around 300 people stranded in various parts of Himachal Pradesh's Lahaul and Spiti district have been rescued. However, around 200 people are still stranded there. Meanwhile, most of the 600 roads of the state reopened today after being blocked due to recent snowfall. 13 more stranded people were airlifted to safer places by the Indian Air Force. The Met Department has predicted that the weather will hold today as well. Meanwhile, rains continue to lash many districts in Punjab, Haryana and Uttarakhand. However, no fresh casualties were reported in the other states. In Punjab, a 5-member state disaster response cell was set up by the state government to monitor the situation in the wake of rains that lashed the region during the past 4 days. All international news now. UN General Assembly President Maria Fernanda Espinosa has cited the recent devastating floods in Kerala to make a call to the world leaders to achieve progress on agreements aimed at slowing climate change. During her address to the world leaders, she said that the state of Kerala suffered its worst monsoon floods in recent history, which killed 400 people and displaced 1 million more from their homes. She said that it is our responsibility to slow the production, consumption, policies and habits that are destroying our planet. She also urged all the leaders in the assembly to live up to the needs of the people and build a more peaceful, secure and humane world order that guarantees the dignity of the people. Espinosa even added that heat waves, forest fires, storms and floods are leaving behind a trail of death and destruction. Hence, there is a need to give greater attention to environmental protection and make progress on the agreements that are aimed at slowing climate change. And as he addressed world leaders at the 73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly, US President Donald Trump on Tuesday held up India as an example of a country that has successfully lifted millions of its citizens out of poverty. While praising India, Donald Trump called India a part of a beautiful constellation of countries working for a common future. This was Donald Trump's second address to the United Nations General Assembly. While lavishing praises for India, Donald Trump had a warning for China, saying that the trade imbalance was not acceptable.
There is India, a free society, over 1 billion people, successfully lifting countless millions out of poverty and into the middle class. There is Saudi Arabia, where King Salman and the Crown Prince are pursuing bold new reforms. Many countries are pursuing their own unique visions, building their own hopeful futures, and chasing their own wonderful dreams of destiny, of legacy, and of a home. The whole world is richer. Humanity is better because of this beautiful constellation of nations, each very special, each very unique, and each shining brightly in its part of the world.
And US President Donald Trump also attacked the Iranian leadership, accusing it of sowing chaos, death and destruction across the Middle East. Addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York, he defended his decision to abandon the nuclear deal. Donald Trump compared US relations with Iran to what he called were improved ties with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, praising him for halting nuclear and missile tests. He also called on the OPEC nations to stop raising oil prices. Donald Trump in his speech also said that he rejected the ideology of globalism and he embraces the doctrine of patriotism. His comments were in complete contrast to what Secretary General Antonio Guterres had said a few minutes ago, focusing on the need for multilateralism. Donald Trump also came down heavily on the United Nations, saying that it must become more effective and accountable.
Iran's leaders sow chaos, death, and destruction. They do not respect their neighbors or borders or the sovereign rights of nations. Instead, Iran's leaders plunder the nation's resources to enrich themselves and to spread mayhem across the Middle East and far beyond.
Meanwhile, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani criticized Washington for its hostile policy towards his country, and he said that US's approach was doomed to failure. In his speech to the United Nations General Assembly, he said that the US had waged an economic war against Iran by reimposing unilateral sanctions.
دولت ایالات متحده آمریکا دست کم در صورت هیئت حاکمه فعلی خود عزم آن دارد که کلیه نهادهای بین المللی را بی‌خاصیت سازد. با چه معیاری می‌توانیم با چنین دولت بدعهدی عهد جدید ارتجاع بزرگتر آنکه دولت آمریکا.
Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj on Tuesday held bilateral talks with the leaders from Fiji, Estonia and Suriname on the sidelines of the 73rd session of UNGA. She is scheduled to address the general debate of the UNGA on 29th of September. In her bilateral meeting, Sushma Swaraj discussed diverse issues including defense cooperation, trade and capacity building. Sushma Swaraj met Fijian Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama, Foreign Minister of Estonia Sven Mikser and Foreign Minister of Suriname Deborah Bigle. Sushma Swaraj also participated in the G4 meeting with her counterparts from Brazil, Germany and Japan.
They reaffirmed their commitment to multilateralism and the need for an early reform of the Council, including the expansion of both permanent and non-permanent categories of membership to enhance the legitimacy, effectiveness and representativeness of the Security Council. Most important, they reviewed the progress at the intergovernmental negotiations and emphasized the need to revitalize the process. It's been 10 years since the IGN started, and they felt it is time that we went to the next step of text-based negotiations.
And on to all the sporting action now. Afghanistan pulled off a thrilling tie against India in the Super 4 match of the Asia Cup yesterday. Chasing a target of 253 runs to win, Indian team was all out on 252, leading to a tie. The men in blue needed 7 runs off the final over, needing a run of 2 balls to win with just 1 wicket in hand. Jadeja lost his wicket, scooping the ball for a catch at the mid-wicket. KL Rahul and Ambati Rayudu gave a solid start to India, with both having a partnership of 110 runs for the first wicket. Rahul scored 60 runs while Ambati Rayudu scored 57. And for Afghanistan, Aftab Alam, Mohammad Nabi and Rashid Khan picked up 2 wickets each. Earlier batting first, Afghanistan scored 252 for the loss of 8 wickets in their allotted 50 overs. Mohammad Shahzad was the highest scorer of the match with his knock of 124 of 116 deliveries. And for India, Ravindra Jadeja was the pick of the bowlers as well, as he took 3 wickets. And Pakistan will be up against Bangladesh today. Both Pakistan and Bangladesh are in the hunt for the final berth, and the winner will face India in the final on the 28th. And with that, we wrap up this edition of Midday News. Thanks for watching.